Good morning. Welcome to a premium public video discussion for Monday, March 13th, 2023. This is perhaps the most significant storm that we have seen all year. Well, yeah, considering it's 2023, we really haven't seen much in the way of winter storms throughout much of the winter. And now we are in meteorological spring, and of course now we get our most impressive winter storm. Typical. Instead of going through all the model data, which is what I typically do with these chats, I wanted to use this opportunity to use the observations and kind of show you what we look at as the storm starts to evolve. We'll be doing live coverage throughout the day. And of course, tonight at 8 p.m., we have moved the weekly live chat to tonight because we're going to be watching the storm evolve. And after the storm leaves, well, things start to quiet down quite a bit. So we can actually see a lot of those changes in the observations right now. And the reason why it's important to study the observations and have this video is that it teaches us what type of models we should use, and also when models are a bit wacky and likely wouldn't verify. So a perfect example would be for much of this weekend, we've seen a lot of the mesoscale models struggling with the snowfall amounts and producing outlandish amounts, as much as like 18 inches in Monmouth County, New Jersey, which wasn't going to happen. But how do I know that? How could I be so confident about that? It all comes down to the boundary layer. Okay, that's where we are. Okay, when you take a look at the environment here, you have temperatures in the upper 30s to lower 40s along the coast this morning, lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, especially for the highest elevations. Now, this alone, this could change, right? This alone would not tell me, like, no, it's not going to snow along the coast. It could still change, right? But you can see right now the type of air mass that we have in place right now at the surface that would support generally what conditions today, right? So the only locations where we're seeing any support for any type of snowfall is right around the Poconos and Catskills. Meanwhile, we are already starting to see some steady, moderate to heavy rainfall starting to take shape along the coast. We'll dive into what's causing that. See that very nicely on the radar and our surface map from WeatherTap, a combination of two systems. We have our low pressure system down here. This is with the subtropical jet stream. And then we have this feature up here. This is with the polar jet stream. And these two features are going to interact. Now, how do we know that it's not going to interact sooner and produce a colder storm further to the west or something of that nature? Well, based on what we're seeing here in the upper level wind pattern, these are the winds at 250 millibars. Typically on Wednesdays, we talk about this map quite a bit and understanding the pattern. And what can we learn from this pattern when we look at this right now? Progressive. The polar jet stream is this one right here. This is the subtropical jet stream. As you can see, the subtropical jet stream, now that La Nina's influence is starting to degrade rapidly, is pretty progressive. And it's moving pretty quickly. We've pretty much lost our southeast ridge, and we're starting to see our enhanced subtropical jet stream sending shortwave after shortwave into the west coast and marching across the southern tier of the country. Meanwhile, we have our polar jet stream that also is rather progressive. It's a little bit more amplified. It's not doing a straight west to east bit, but it's doing a nice trough moving into the west coast. It's displacing this ridge to the east. This trough is starting to march east as well. It's now in a neutral tilt, which allows for the polar shortwave to capture the subtropical shortwave. But because of the progressive nature of this whole pattern, everything is continuing to push to the east. So yes, we do see a capture, we do see a slowing down of the storm, but the whole 500 millibar pattern is shifting east. So within that slowing down of the storm, the whole pattern itself is being pushed to the east. So that means that your development and your intensification of the storm is going to be further towards New England than it would towards the northern mid-Atlantic. And that's important because that tells us when and where the mid-level structures of this storm, i.e. the jet streak at 850 millibars, is going to develop. So this tells us a lot about this pattern right here based on what we're seeing. Okay, this simple observation, this one wind observation, tells us a lot about the theme. But let's dive in a little bit more. Let's take a look at some of the observations coming in from the SPC. Okay, you can see our surface low pressure system, subtropical jet stream, is stronger. So this is our primary surface low pressure system. But it's not that simple as we look at the interior, at the upper levels. At 925 millibars, we have one upper level low here along the coast. But notice the air mass at 925 millibars. It's rather bland, warm. A lot of people were trying to compare this storm to the blizzard that we saw in 1993, the March superstorm. A few people, and it was quickly shot down for one simple reason. The March superstorm had an Arctic air mass in place, where 850 millibar temperatures were below minus 6 degrees Celsius at this level. The reason why that's important is because at 925 and 850 millibars during this time of year, March, you need colder temperatures to support snowfall accumulation down to the surface. As a result, you really kind of want to watch what type of air mass we're dealing with. And this is an extremely modified polar air mass that is rapidly giving way, and at least for the first 24 hours, is under significant moderation. We're seeing at 9 to 25 millibars, and we see here at 850 millibars. So notice at 850 millibars, the heights are more focused over the Great Lakes. So you have warm air transport continuing on the coastal plain. All your cold air is back here. This is with the polar jet stream. This is with the polar shortwave. And then we go up to 700 millibars. You see that focus even more so. Here is our subtropical shortwave with all the moisture, and here comes the polar shortwave. 500 millibars, same setup. Here we have the 500 millibar trough. Your cold air is back here. Here's your jet stream starting to interact with the subtropical jet stream, setting up the capture and pulling this storm northward. Meanwhile, we do have quite a bit of rain here along the coast. It's starting to intensify and become heavy. What's causing that? Well, it's what we call frontogenesis. And let's see if we can pull that up right here. We'll zoom in on the sector. And what's happening is that we're getting this little trough here that's starting to organize, and that's supporting heavier rainfall. Now, what's going to happen is that as this upper level feature starts to capture the storm, you're going to start to see various lines of frontogenesis starting to develop, and that's lifting in the atmosphere starting to develop. While that's happening, you're also going to see what we call divergence and diffluence. You see how the lines are kind of spread out here? We'll zoom back out here for a minute. And you see this spreading here? That spreading in the atmosphere allows for air to rapidly rise. So you have all the observations set up to support a rapidly developing winter storm. Everything is there for you this morning in the observations. So when we take a look at the satellite picture, it's just the infrared first, and you can start to see the cloud top starting to get colder over the northern mid-Atlantic. It's still scattered. We're at the infant stages of this storm development, but you can still see the two pieces here separated for now, the polar shortwave and the subtropical shortwave. That shows up even more so in the water vapor satellite picture. Here's our subtropical, here's our polar. Now, I said earlier on last week that the key to the storm even developing is the orientation of this trough. If this trough was more positively tilted, it would not be fast enough to capture this storm. But because it's in a neutral tilt right now, it is just fast enough to capture the storm once it gets east of Long Island. So today for the northern mid-Atlantic, it's pretty much rain, maybe some snow sleet over portions of the highest elevations in the Poconos and Catskills, which is supported by the upper level temperatures that we're seeing. Again, let's zoom in here. And you can see just cold enough at 850 millibars to support some snow over the Poconos and Catskills, but nowhere else. If this was the dead of winter, like January, even mid-February, we would be talking about snow developing along the Jersey Shore right now. But because of the time of year, because of the stronger sun angle, even this early in the morning, it impedes your development because you end up with an environment where temperatures are in the upper 30s to lower 40s rather than the mid 30s. Okay, so timing matters in this scenario. Time of year, time of evolution of the storm, time of capture. So everything you can see here in the observations, the nature of the storm, the timing of the event, the starting of the interaction of these features, all points you to one forecast. And it's a pretty clear forecast, which I have to say that over the past 24 hours, we've seen a pretty good consolidation of most of the forecasts outside of maybe the NAM model guidance. But the HRR has shifted more towards where the synoptic models are. European GFS pretty much agree with each other as well. So the going forecast is driven by the evolution of the storm becoming featuring what we call a strong jet streak. So you see this area right here. What you're going to feature and what we're going to see later on this afternoon, which I'll be posting on Twitter and on Facebook, so definitely check out those areas. And of course, on the dashboard, or what's it called, the Discord. Yeah, I'll be posting on there as well. And of course, we'll have our live chat tonight where we'll show that jet streak forming. But you'll see this intense jet streak that's going to form right here later on in the overnight hours. And what that jet streak is going to do for us tomorrow is enhance the precipitation here and cause what we call a deformation zone that's going to drop south. And what that deformation zone will support intense heavy snowfall in these areas. And then as it drops south tomorrow with colder air working in from the west, that's when we'll start to see a changeover from rain to snow, and some of that snow is going to accumulate. So this is what we're generally expecting. In zone 1, you're going to have a wintry mix today, changing over to intense snowfall tonight into tomorrow with about 12 to 24 inches. This is going to be elevation dependent. What that means is that the higher you are in elevation, the more likely you'll see the higher snowfall totals. There will be a threat for power outages, and this is going to be a very wet cement-like snow. In zone 2, we're looking at 6 to 12 inches, again, elevation dependent. Same threats and same impacts. In zone 2, also look out for a pretty good mixing of sleet. Now, down to Scranton, there is some forecast that can push you all the way up to 18 inches. And right now, I have you in zone 3 at 4 to 8 inches. Again, elevation dependent. A lot of this depends on where exactly that deformation zone, that area of intense lifting, sets up. I'm a little bit further north and east than some of the other model guidance and some of the other forecasts out there. It's going to be a really tight call because this whole gradient is going to be very tight. Okay, so I would not be surprised if you get the zone 1 pushing all the way down to Scranton, and then immediately south of Scranton, you're getting conditions from zone 4 or 5. Very tight gradient in this area right here, and same thing over much of the northern interior. In zone 3, again, we're looking at 4 to 8 inches of snow, a lot of sleet mixing in as well. Then we get towards the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan areas. Zone 4 to north of New York City through portions of southern Connecticut. Looking at rain for much of today, slowly mixing over to a wintry mix tonight, especially after midnight, ending as snow. Most locations, again, this is going to be elevation dependent. I think most locations will be on around 3 inches on cold surfaces. A few areas where you're going to get a burst up to 4 or 5, maybe even 6 inches. As far as the roadways, any treatment of roadways is generally going to remain wet, but there will be that threat for about 1 to 3 inches of snow, especially on untreated roadways and secondary roads and whatnot. But at the same time, this is going to be a type of wet snow where if you get any type of treatment, it's going to melt pretty quickly. Zone 5, this is covering much of Long Island, the immediate shore of Connecticut, and just north of the New York City and Newark areas, looking at anywhere from, well, rain to start off with, up to 2 inches of rain possible through today. Then that rain will start to mix over to snow tomorrow, looking at about a 1 to 3 inches on cold surfaces, your car tops, grass, and whatnot. a trace to maybe an inch on some road surfaces. Any type of treatment is just going to keep you wet. Zone 6, rain to snow, same idea, but we're going to also have the urban heat on effect, and also a lot of this is going to happen in the afternoon where snow is going to be very difficult to accumulate, pretty much just on cold surfaces, wet roadways, maybe a trace on some secondary roads. That's about it. But do be careful because the winds tonight through tomorrow are going to be pretty strong. Initially coming in from the northeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour, back into the northwest at 15 to 30 miles per hour. There will be a threat for some power outages and some coastal flooding. Watch out for some of your back bays with the winds coming from the northwest driving that water in. That's going to be for a couple of days. So don't be surprised to get some coastal flooding from the other side and typically from the Atlantic. And then Zone 7 back here towards New York and Lancaster. Not too bad of a storm for you guys out there. Rainfall's going to come through mostly today, and tomorrow you're just going to have a few widely scattered showers. So not looking for anywhere near as much rainfall from this storm in those scenarios. Walking through the forecast, again for today, periods of rain over much of the region, a mix of snow, sleet, and rain in the Poconos and Catskills. Temperatures will rise into the upper 30s to lower 40s over the northern interior. I should say mid to upper 30s over the northern interior and lower to mid 40s along the coast. For tonight into tomorrow, our storm rapidly intensifies. Don't be surprised if we get a nice little break in the precipitation early tomorrow morning. Okay, so the storm will lift northward. You'll get this inverted trough that's just going to be pummeling southern New England and Connecticut. But for New York City and Philadelphia, because you're getting all this strong lifting in the atmosphere, you're also going to get strong sinking to the south of it. So I'm expecting a break in the precipitation, mostly just some widely scattered showers, and it's going to be relatively mild. Look for temperatures to range from the upper 20s to lower 30s over the northern interior, mid to upper 30s along the coast. Tomorrow afternoon, the storm starts to pivot, and this is where we start to get that brief period of slowing down, stalling. But notice it's in the Gulf of Maine. Your jet streak that I was talking about is going to be focused right here. So you're going to get intense snowfall just pummeling northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, the Hudson River Valley, and Connecticut. As the storm slows down, you kind of get this inverted trough / weak low pressure system. This trough is going to drop south throughout the day tomorrow, and that's where you're going to introduce your potential for snowfall accumulation for locations further south. This is going to be your time period for any type of snowfall accumulation. Temperatures aren't going to be moving all that much tomorrow. Upper 20s to lower 30s over the northern interior, mid to upper 30s along the coast. So pretty much what you see in the morning is what you're going to see in the afternoon, maybe a degree or two warmer. And that is about it. Now, the storm finally pulls away on Wednesday. You'll still have breezy conditions, but it will be much drier. Low temperatures will range from the mid to upper 20s over the northern interior, lower to mid 30s along the coast. This is a type of snow that's very wet. And because it's very wet, it's going to melt and then refreeze. So definitely watch out for some icy conditions in the morning hours. High temperatures on Wednesday, with high pressure building in and more sunshine, will range from the mid to upper 30s over the northern interior, lower to mid 40s along the coast. Along the coast, any snowfall that did accumulate is going to be melting rapidly over the interior, especially if you're in those areas 1 to 2 feet. Watch out for that melting and then refreezing again, making for some icy conditions on Thursday morning. With high pressure and complete control and a fresh snowpack and lighter winds, those temperatures are going to plummet, with low temperatures over the northern interior from the single digits to upper teens. But along the coast, where there is no snowpack, temperatures are going to range from the lower to mid 30s. So you're going to have a very, very tight thermal gradient over the region on Thursday morning. And then in the afternoon, with the March sun and plenty of potential to warm up, you're going to have high temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior, upper 40s to lower 50s along the coast. I would not be surprised if there's some areas, especially in some valleys, of some low clouds kind of holding down those temperatures a bit. But you're going to see an awful lot of melting on Thursday over the interior with those type of temperatures. On Friday, high pressure will shift off the coast. We get a nice southwesterly wind, We're going to have a cold front approaching the region, but the precipitation will stay off to the west. Look for low temperatures to range from the mid to upper 30s, and high temperatures will range from the upper 40s to lower 50s throughout the region, possibly a few mid to upper 50s in the Philadelphia metro if we get enough clearing. On Saturday, the cold front will move through with scattered showers, possibly an embedded thunderstorm or two. We'll have to watch that in the morning hours. Look for low temperatures to range from the mid to upper 30s over the northern interior, lower to mid 40s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 40s. On Sunday, high pressure will be in control with scattered cloud cover expected. Look for low temperatures to range from the lower to mid 20s over the northern interior, mid to upper 20s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior and mid to upper 30s over along the coast. And then finally on Monday, high pressure in place, tranquil conditions. Temperatures will range from the upper teens to lower 20s over the northern interior, mid to upper 20s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the lower to mid 40s. That is your forecast discussion for today. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. We'll have coverage of this storm throughout the day. And as always, I'll see you tonight at 8 p.m. and stay safe out there.